Hi everyone, it's Karen Redman, the Mayor of the town of Gawler here once again, and it's my privilege to have Sam Dilena here. And Sam is our Manager of Engineering and Infrastructure Services. Have I got that wrong? I never get the whole thing
Not
right.
quite. Infrastructure Engineering Services, but
Infrastructure engineering infrastructure for the town of Gawler. And we are going to talk about playgrounds today. We were going to go outside and be at a playground, but it's a bit wet. And, you know, imagine that if somebody fell off and broke their leg, that wouldn't be any good, would it? No. So, anyway, we're inside in the Institute, which is also our council chamber. And behind me, just so that you're aware, is a beautiful photograph of 1907, which was the 50th anniversary of council or local government in Gawler, and also the Institute, which is just a fabulous display of our main street. So I love looking at that beautiful old photograph, and it's still quite relevant today. Anyway, Sam, yeah. Playgrounds. So we've got 18.
So yeah, 18, ever-growing list in the town of Gawler. Obviously we're expanding on a number of fronts with land development, and our developer friends have delivered some really great play spaces in the recent years, and will do into the future.
Yeah, that's true, because we are growing, aren't we? And playgrounds are becoming more and more important, and people's needs and desires are changing. Would that be fair to say? Yes,
certainly, and so that's been recognised through just the playgrounds that are being delivered. Obviously, nature plays become such a significant part of it, and sensory aspects, accessibility, making sure that playgrounds that we're constructed are accessible to all areas of the public. And more recently, in some examples for the town of Gawler that we've delivered, is the Williston Nature Play Space up in that Williston Sporting Precinct. I think that's been a really well received playground.
It's beautiful. Yeah, I've been there a few times. Yeah. My grandson loves it. We love it. Yeah. Adults and kids alike. There's also some tables and chairs which are covered, so there's shade. There's exploratory places. It's not your traditional swing set type playground, which we seem to be moving away from, don't we?
Yeah, in not in all cases, but certainly it's about creating these active play spaces that provide some risk-based challenges for the children, because this is where they learn at those early years to take those risks and to challenges and to get out and explore.
So this is a bit of a tricky question. You might, I'm sure you always seem to be able to provide great answers. So, where's the gaps in our playgrounds? What do we need to provide that perhaps we are working on? We've got lots. We've got 18. We'll probably get more. Is there lots of duplication, or do we have different kinds of playgrounds for different kinds of people or different age groups? Yeah,
we do have obviously. We do have some gaps, there's no doubt about that, and in the future years, one of the things that we probably need to do as a council is look at a playground strategy overall to understand really what does our community see as important. And we do have a lot of playgrounds that are similar, and we have started incorporating some of these nature playgrounds, and we've got some really good examples of that. The Williston Nature Play Space being one, but also one that's been delivered in Springwood, in their Highfield section of the development. More recently is a really well utilised park, and it's come together really well through a combination of obviously Springwood's initiative and the council working together to really develop a great space that we can now take on and manage on behalf of the community. Yeah. So and in terms of obviously from an access perspective and providing for all members of the community, there's a bit more work to be done in that space, and
it's always a challenge, isn't it? Yeah. Because people get very excited, but you can't deliver all things to all people in one playground. I guess it'd have to be pretty big, but how we spread that across, and certainly inclusivity and access. So perhaps talk a little bit more about how we're delivering on that and what our challenges are.
Yeah, certainly. More recently, this financial year, last financial year, we've finished the delivery of the playground in Old Croquet Reserve. That's the reserve that's located on the corner of 5th Street and Adelaide Road. That was open just in time for the mid-year school holidays, and one of the key aspects in terms of that delivery of that project was also making sure that we were honouring the intent of our Disability Action and Inclusion Plan in terms of providing access for all abilities. So whilst so there's been certainly consideration of that in respect to the types of play equipment that were selected to go in that space, but also how people that are mobility impaired can actually access some of that equipment as well. There is some minor works that we're still in the process of finalising to get you in from the gate of the reserve to the play space, but also looking at, and one of the things that we do is when we look at a playground upgrade, we don't just look at the playground in isolation, we look at the rest of the reserve in terms of access as well as use for all abilities.
That's a great really good example. It's on a main road, but it's got a wonderful fence around it. It's got trees, it's got grassed area, it's got the playground, but it's also surrounded by beautiful buildings. You know, I look across at the Church of the Transfiguration, the Old Gawler South Hall, but also the bungalows around and the cottages around. It's just, and it's really easy to get to as well from a car or even walking. So yeah, it's a wonderfully positioned playground, because it used to be a croquet ground years ago, but in fact my husband I think he did croquet at high school there. Not that he actually worked very hard, that's another story, but yeah, it is gorgeous, and people come and do little events there too, don't they? You know, it's a space where you can have family events, but you can have rallies, you can have, I think I went there as mayor for a domestic violence, a family violence, Say No to Family Violence rally, and reflective prayer type service, and it was just perfectly positioned. It's a nice size reserve, and there's plenty of irrigated space to kick around and host an event, so certainly. It's beautifully maintained too, I have to say, Sam. Yeah, our guys do a great job, and that's probably a good point to make in terms of maintaining the playgrounds. We have dedicated staff, a team of dedicated staff at our council depot that oversee all our roads and reserves. But particularly as it relates to playgrounds, we've got a number of staff that are trained in terms of playground inspections, and the community probably wouldn't know this, but we inspect all playgrounds on a monthly basis in a very detailed manner, not just a casual inspection, but quite a detailed inspection on a monthly basis through some trained staff. And then we also do externally have the playgrounds externally audited once a year by a highly qualified playground auditor. So that's really about trying to making sure that these spaces are maintained in a manner that's safe for our community ongoing into the future. That's a really important point, because you can build this infrastructure, but if it's not maintained, it just becomes a real risk. And playgrounds are risky anyway, because if you're going to do anything, you're going to create a risk, but you know, just walking is risky, but we have to do it because we want to be healthy and we want to have well-being, and you want kids to be active, you want parents and grandparents to be active and get away from the mobile devices, so it's worth taking the risk, isn't it, you know, to potentially scratch yourself or maybe even break a bone, but it's exciting to be able to do that, but there's an expectation that they're well maintained. So it's really great that you've been able to say that, Sam, because it's a really important piece of work, isn't it? It is, and certainly, and you know, down to the testing the depth of softfall and the extent of compaction of the rubber softfall. That these are all programmed in a maintenance regime to make sure that we're complying with the Australian standard, but also keeping our community safe. And we've got really good staff that certainly support our community in that space. In terms of certainly moving forward, and we talked about earlier about growth and new playgrounds, and we certainly in our budget that the council will deliberate on in the coming weeks. We have a new play space, exciting, in the budget in terms of renewal, and that's located at Hemmerford Reserve, up Gawler East. So that's in the budget. We're certainly excited. What people in Hemmerford or surrounding Hemmerford Grove, up in Coastal Estate, what are they going to be getting when you renew that area? Great question. It's something we're going to ask them, Madam Mayor. Oh, fantastic. We're going to ask them what they'd like to see in there. So that local community will be, given an opportunity to input into the design. And awesome. So if you're from Coastal Estate or up in Gawler East, Hemmerford Grove, look out for some asking you, what do you want there? What do you think will work? And we're really keen to hear your ideas. so that we can incorporate and really make that play space work for the people that not only live in Gawler-Esk, we all share it, don't we? But people like myself that might want to take my grandson or family members up there. That sounds really, really, I look forward to that. Can't wait to see it.
Yeah, so we'll engage with the local community probably around towards the end of this calendar year, October, November. Also some local schools, and there's a childcare centre I think up that way as well. And hear from them in terms of...
active? Oh, wouldn't that be great?
Yeah, and we'll have something in the park for one day, and it's so that's all being planned out at the moment in terms of how we're going to run that process. But we've got our some staff working on that at the moment. And then one of the things that we're doing also in the budget is integrating irrigation upgrade and some other park furniture installations, so that we really augment that project and we get a really good outcome that we can walk away and say, it's not just a playground, we've looked at the rest of that local surrounds and given it a lift and given a great space for the community to enjoy moving forward in the future.
Thank you, Sam, because it is, I always get really inspired when I go around to our playgrounds, because they are really well looked after. There's always a work in progress, isn't it? Because nothing stays the same. But they are wonderful spaces to take little human beings, you know, who need to get out, and you all need a break. And it's such a simple and easy thing to do, and it's free. You know, I mean, our rates all pay for this, absolutely. But we all share that, and we share, you know, so people who can't afford various things can get these free activities, and we all enjoy health and well-being just because we've got these wonderful playgrounds. So thank you for what you do. Thank you to all the staff that are working with you, alongside you. And thank you for coming along today.
No, wonderful. My pleasure, Madam Mayor.
All right, everyone. Have a great day.
Thank you.